shocked doesn't even begin to describe how I feel about the violence with which Columbia University treated students who were engaging in peaceful protest today on their campus. You might have seen this in the news today or on Twitter or whatever, but the details are actually way worse than I thought. Today is Thursday, April 18th, and just since yesterday, Wednesday, Columbia University students have been peacefully protesting on campus. They've been opposing Israeli military action in Gaza and demanding that their university divests from companies that profit from Israeli apartheid. Okay, not only was the protest peaceful, but one really crucial piece of information that a lot of the coverage leaves out is the fact that the students were on a designated part of the campus that is for student protest. It's not like they were just in some random place or, obstructing students from being able to attend their classes or obstructing any kind of university activity. They were in spaces that are designated for student protest. Despite this, the president of Columbia University requested in writing that the city of New York remove these protesters from campus. This is honestly atrocious enough on its own, but listen to this. Another crucial piece of information that a lot of the coverage misses is how they managed to do this. The students, in the end, 108 students were arrested for trespassing, but you can't trespass on your own university, right? You're allowed to be there. The students were first suspended so that they would be able to be charged with trespassing. Let's just make sure we understand this. The university suspended these students who were engaging in peaceful protest within their own campus, not obstructing anyone, not hurting anybody, suspended these students so that the massive numbers of NYPD that the university requested could arrest these students. Let's think for a moment about the level of harm that this university is inflicting upon the students that it is entrusted to take care of. Not only is suspending students so that they can be arrested for trespassing so violent on its own, suspension also has so many ramifications. I mean, students were denied access to their dorm rooms, locked out from their belongings, told that they couldn't attend their classes, of course, no longer able to access campus. That also means that these students are not able to access their healthcare, which almost all, if not all, students receive through the university. And here's the photo that sent me over the edge. Honestly, today's been a pretty tough day watching my own alma mater that I have long been very proud to be associated with inflicting this level of violence on its students. This is what Columbia University did to the belongings of the students who they suspended so that they could then arrest them. They took these students' belongings after making them homeless, after revoking their access to their education, revoking their access to healthcare. They took these students' belongings and chucked them into an alleyway. And this is not just like leftover trash. There are full backpacks all down here, all these tents, all this camping equipment, jackets. Again, this is the institution that has been entrusted with the safety of these students. I mean, what do you even say? For the president of a university to bring this upon her students who are simply engaging in peaceful protest on their principles, on their beliefs, betraying her foremost obligation as a university president to her students, which is simply to protect them. Here's a little clip of when the arrests started. Just think for a moment how dystopian this is. Like, this does not feel real to be witnessing. But do you want to see what the students did in response? This makes me so proud. I actually think I might cry.
As I walk through the valley of the shadow.
Use it for peace.
And justice. Can you hear my voice? Yeah! I first want to say that I stand here in solidarity with each and every one of you. Because we are in solidarity with human suffering, especially when it is imposed by human beings, and I'm talking about the indescribable genocide of our precious Palestinians in Gaza.
So I snuck into Columbia University Surf and Turf, where the students got shrimp, lobster, and steak. just to become reflective about how horrible these institutions are and learn that Columbia is trying to get rid of a preschool to gentrify the area even more. Listen, I'm not gonna lie, when I took the train to Columbia University, I went with the full intention of just enjoying myself and getting food that I can't afford. And of course, I brought my Tupperware because now I'll be eating shrimp and lobster for the next 2 weeks. But then I became really reflective about the hypocrisy of this whole place and reflective about how horrible my twin sister's experience was here. As a low-income student on financial aid, at the start of COVID, they caused her to have housing instability and wouldn't even give her money for a laptop when this place has unlimited money. I thought about how I was paid to pack up some rich kids'
I'm here at Columbia University. Yes, I'm cleaning, but that's okay.
Because they didn't want to come back from their spring break trip. And the fact that it was normalized during that time for low-income students to risk their health to pack up rich kids' dorm rooms to make sure that their rich kids' belongings were okay, it still makes me upset years later. Columbia is wild to me because it's literally gated off from the rest of New York. There's like this beautiful campus, grass, these bouncy houses, games to play. But as I was talking to people, I learned about stuff that's going on in this campus. Like a student recently unalived themselves. It's understood that a lot of these old men, white professors are creepy to students with no consequences or accountability. And Columbia is trying to develop and get rid of Red Balloon, a preschool that addresses lack of affordable, high quality childcare in the area. I remember I made a video talking about the hypocrisy of NYU and someone commented, I go to Columbia, and I was like, well, you know what? We're the same, we're just different fonts. Both these places are landlord fronts. Meanwhile, CUNY schools that serve people who live and are from New York lack essential resources. And these schools, NYU and Columbia, they have everything. And I don't have all the answers in a TikTok video. But I guess my point is, I hope that anyone who goes to NYU, Columbia, or any kind of elitist place, and this includes universities and colleges not New York, looks outside the gates in which they're protected and gets involved in trying to contribute to the community, not just sitting around eating lobster and steak.
Real shit, if you're a student right now and you're not pissed and you're not speaking about what's happening in Columbia, I really need you to kiss my ass and drop out, actually, because there is no way you see what's happening with those students who are protesting because their school wants to support Israel, and then you're just okay with it. Like, they are arresting students who pay tuition to be there because they are protesting, a right that is written into our Constitution. Since the inception of this bum-ass country, we have been told that we're allowed to do that. And now they're just like, actually, no, because you're getting in the way of our bag. Do y'all not understand how crazy that is? Like, I don't understand why we're suddenly pretending like colleges and campuses aren't supposed to be these places of, like, civil disobedience. But, baby, I don't know what history classes you've been taking, but clearly you have not been paying attention into any of them, because that's exactly what college is about. It's about, it's about, I'm just so angry. It's about sharing ideas that may not be popular, but are definitely necessary and important to be put into the public sphere, okay? Meaning that when these students are, walking out of their classrooms and they're taking up their chancellor's offices and they're, locking hands together, not letting go, and they're taking up space on their campus on the, little quads or whatever, pay attention. Why do you think they're doing that? People aren't just doing that because they're bored. You think a bunch of kids want to be out there and just having to protest because their school is being some fuck-ass losers and supporting a genocide? No. They want to be like the rest of us and they want to be having a good time and enjoying their lives. But no, sorry, they have to actually do the right thing because a bunch of you losers refuse to do that. Because a bunch of you losers refuse to wake up to what's happening around you. Because a bunch of you losers refuse to just let go of your comfort. It is so insane. We just had, 29 Google employees just get fired because they wanted to protest because Google is spending $1.2 billion on some software that I'm pretty sure is going to disproportionately and indiscriminately harm Palestinian and Arab and probably other marginalized groups of people. Like, what? Like, do y'all not understand that any time someone loses their position of whatever institution they're at because they are speaking up about something they care about, that is against the law. And y'all love to care about laws and rules here, so I don't know why y'all are suddenly okay with that. Like, it's just mind-boggling to me.
I'm here as a Columbia social work graduate student because several of my classmates, including 2 Jewish students, were unjustly suspended for being in solidarity with the liberation of Palestine. President Minouche claims to care about the safety of our students on campus, and yet she is not allowing us inside to a hearing on public safety on campus. pro-Palestine is not anti-Semitic. We have lots of anti-Zionist Jewish students on campus who deeply believe this, and they are being shut out of the hearing where President Manouche is speaking.
Thank you.
Let's see, straight A's, 1600 on the SAT. But how have you helped the community?
Well, I volunteer at the soup kitchen.
What else?
I rescue stray cats.
What else?
I'm a volunteer firefighter.
What else?
I won the Nobel Peace Prize. Hey, maybe we should, stop bombing people.
What the fuck? Arrest him. Arrest. This is no place for that kind of talk. Guards, arrest him.
What is going on?
Expel him.
What are you out?
Reese's Jordan.
Columbia University has suspended 6 students for protesting against the genocide in Palestine with no due process. So let's take a look at Columbia and Barnard's 6-month attack on students protesting against the genocide in Palestine. Since October 7, 2023, Free Palestine protesters have received doxing from Zionist students and external Zionist groups, including doxing trucks. And on November 10th, the universities banned Jewish Voice for Peace and Students for Justice in Palestine, which occurred a day after the groups participated in a Shut It Down for Palestine walkout. This resulted in protests from the greater New York City community. A denouncing graduation ceremony from previous alumni, and now a lawsuit from NYCLU to Columbia for the suspension of the chapter. But somehow it gets much worse than even this. At the start of the current semester on January 19th, 2024, dozens of students reported that 2 former IOF soldiers sprayed skunk, an illegal chemical weapon used for crowd control by the Israeli offensive forces, on the student protesters at Columbia and Barnard. And despite it gaining mass attention on social media, 10 students being hospitalized with dozens more having to seek urgent medical care, continuous outrage in demonstrations from Free Palestine Columbia students, no one was held accountable. So SJP and JVP organized an action with 83 other community organizations to protest the ongoing genocide in Palestine and the repression of the pro-Palestinian movement on the student campus. The skunk attack that occurred on January 19th. The NYPD, New York Police Department, responded by working with the university to brutally assault pro-Palestinian Columbia students and their supporters for this non-violent action directly outside the gates of Columbia, which included dislocating someone's arm, body slamming individuals on the ground, punching people in the stomach, and arresting 12. The NYPD has continuously used surveillance drones at these student-led protests. It's important to note that these drones are not only at actions, which include the greater New York City community supporting student protesters. Even when the gates are locked and it's just student protesters, the NYPD used their drones to fly over the gates to surveil the student protesters. Yeah, even with this surveillance and at least 17 security cameras of where the skunk chemical attack happened, the NYPD has put it on student protesters to come up with footage of the skunk chemical attack that occurred on January 19th. The NYPD's selective surveillance mirrors university surveillance, who they work with to criminalize student protesters. As the university has surveilled student emails, social media, sent emails of discipline notices to student protesters, has sent emails to organizations warning them that public political events on campus are being reported to law enforcement, and further announced that it would be using Wi-Fi networks to surveil student protesters against the genocide. But it does not end there. In response to Free Palestine decorations on dorm room doors, Barnard banning it, and a student at Barnard was asked to take off her hijab at a security checkpoint. Students have to deal with harassment from on-faculty university professors like Shai Daibidai, who harasses student protesters both on Twitter and in real life.
Columbia once again showed its true colors through one of the most violent acts.
But it still does not end there.
Columbia suspended myself and 6 other students with no due process in violation of their own rules and disciplinary procedures. This happened after they sent private investigators who are ex-cops to bang on our doors and demand interrogations without lawyers present. Shame on Columbia. Not only did Columbia suspend us without providing any evidence against us, They also did not allow for a hearing before unilateral suspension of 6 high-risk students. We have now been told that we will be evicted from our housing in less than 4 hours.
The Students in Justice of Palestine Columbia chapter made a statement saying, "These suspensions are a part of a coordinated campaign to boost Columbia's public image ahead of the April 17th congressional hearing on anti-Semitism, where President Manu Shafiq and 3 trustees will testify before Congress. Both the president of Harvard and Pennsylvania University were forced to resign shortly after their hearing." So what can you do to support these student protesters? Take action and send an email to Columbia demanding them to revoke the student suspensions. Follow these student organizers' pages and keep supporting their resistance and their demands. And most importantly, keep talking about Palestine.
We're black students at Columbia. Of course, I'm the only black person in my class.
We're black students at Columbia. Of course people look at me weird when I wear my do-rag.
We're black students at Columbia. Of course they're gonna think I'm stealing every time I pick something up. We're black students at Columbia. Of course they exclude me from the group projects.
We're black students at Columbia. Of course they're gonna stare at us like we don't belong here.
We're black students at Columbia. Of course they don't know what an HBCU is.
Protesters at Columbia University were just attacked by IOF soldiers. During the peaceful protest on campus, 2 individuals were identified spraying protesters. They were claiming that they were Columbia students and were also wearing keffiyehs to blend in with the protesters, but they actually were not Columbia students. The chemical spray that was being used is referred to as skunk spray, and it's commonly used in the West Bank. It's known to cause nausea, abdominal pain, vomiting, it burns your eyes, and it causes a whole lot of other health issues. Dozens of students were affected and some even sought medical attention. Now, this thing called skunk spray was invented by Israel, and it has been being used in the West Bank since 2008 against protesters. A lot of people describe it as smelling like raw sewage mixed with decomposition. Now, we all know if this was the other way around, the T word would be thrown out all over the news. The American government and the news media would make sure that the people of America know that a T attack happened on our soil. But because 2 IOF soldiers were the ones who did this attack, we will never hear this story being referred to as the terror attack that happened on Columbia University campus.
I don't feel good about being affiliated with a university that co-signs genocide.
They were very much suppressing protesters for Black lives, and now they're doing the same for Palestine.
Students have been suspended for simply speaking up and exercising their freedom of speech to stand up for Palestine.
Well, I saw you here early in the morning and you were the first online.
Yes.
What happened?
We've been here for hours and they never let anyone in from the public line. And they're claiming that the hearing is full of people. Who? I don't know, because we've been here since the line formed. My name is Olivia, and I'm a student at the Social Work School of Columbia University, and I'm disappointed in President Manouche because of her silencing of students speaking out against genocide, the unsafe campus environment she's created for anti-Zionist Jewish students. Being pro-Palestine is not anti-Semitic, and so I'm here to speak out to let her know I don't feel good about being affiliated with a university that co-signs genocide.
I'm here because I was a student from 2018 to 2022, and they were very much suppressing protesters for Black lives, and now they're doing the same for Palestine. And I'm here also because I'm very upset about the conflation of anti-Semitism and pro-Palestinian, being for Palestinian rights. And I am for the protection of all students on campus, and that has not been happening, and I'm very upset with what I've been seeing on campus.
Standing up for Palestine, being for Palestine is not the same as being anti-Semitic. I'm here with 2 students whose classmates have been suspended and they've lost their housing. They're about to be evicted. They're about to lose their right to get their degree in a few weeks because they've been accused of these things. And it's so wrong. It's disgraceful. And as a journalist, I want to say that the Israeli regime is responsible for killing more than 100 journalists. And as a journalist, how can I not stand up and speak out at this moment?
Did you graduate from the journalism school at Columbia University?
Yes.
Let Columbia students inside.
What? Public line.
It says public line. Public line. Why do you think they're not letting Columbia students in?
I think they're trying to let in the right kind of Columbia students. So Zionist Columbia students, not students that speak out against genocide, care about the safety and dignity of our Palestinian students.
I wanted to get a clarification earlier. One of my colleagues asked you, have you seen anti-Muslim protests on campus?
I have seen, we have had pro-Israeli demonstrations on campus.
No.
But
just
not
a protest that was against Muslims.
No, I have
you
not
seen one against Arabs?
No, I have not.
Have you seen one against Palestinians?
No, I have not.
Have you seen one against Jewish people? Have you seen a protest saying we are against Jewish people?
No, I have seen.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. There has been a rise in targeting and harassment against anti-war protesters because it's been pro-war and anti-war protesters is what it seems like, correct?
Correct. There has been.
Okay, thank you. Activists on campus, including Jewish students, Black and Brown, Arab and Muslim students. How many of the organizations that were canceled in Columbia involved Jewish students?
One of the organizations is called Jewish Voices for Peace.
Yes, and encompassed of Jewish students?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. There was there's been a recent attack on the democratic rights of students across the country. I was appalled to learn that in April, Columbia suspended and evicted 6 students for their involvement in the pro-Palestinian panel event on campus. It happened that all 6 students were arbitrarily targeted after the university brought in a team of private and former police investigators. These investigators harassed, intimidated Palestinian students at their homes, demanding to see students' private text messages and sent threatening emails to the leaders of those pro-Palestinian groups. I would like to ask you to speak a little bit more to this situation and ask you if you guys have utilized private former police investigators before, or is this the first time?
So this was a very serious case. We had students who, on an online
If you could shorten your answer, that would be really appreciated.
Of course, who invited people who were inciting violence, and that is unacceptable. And so we needed to get to the bottom of it. And so that's why we brought private investigators along with notifying the FBI.
How secure were you, these students that you evicted and suspended were involved? Did you do any investigation? Was there a hearing?
They refused to cooperate with the investigation. And so until they do so, they are suspended.
Okay, thank you. And then in January, there was an incident involving students that were protesting that were attacked with a toxic chemical substance, leaving many hospitalized. A lot of them did not receive support from the school administrators. Can you speak to what is happening with the investigation, if you all are cooperating, and why weren't the students provided any support after they've experienced that attack?
So this is still with the police. As far as we know, we think it was an odorous substance, And we did reach out to all of those students who said they were affected. Many of them didn't want support. We also
it took you guys more than 4 days to reach out to students.
No, I don't believe that's correct.
Okay, will you respond, give me a written response with the fact that you all responded right away to those students?
Yes, I would be happy to do that.
All right, appreciate that. And it looks like there's been a lot of doxing and harassment that has taken place. What protections are a student being provided?
Yeah. We created a doxing resources group to support students. There were many students who were affected by this. Muslim students, Jewish students, and completely, other students. That group has, we had 90 students reach out to that group to get support in terms of both technical support, legal support, privacy scrubbing, and so on.
And before I run out of time, I wanted to ask what do your rules say about professors that harass students online, like Professor Shai Davidar has done, and professors who directly attack you as the president as a coward and a liar?
So, as president, I'm used to being attacked, but attacking our students is unacceptable. And in that case, we've had more than 50 complaints about that professor, and he is currently under investigation for harassment and
I would love a
discrimination.
follow-up on that as well. Thank you so much. I yield back.
Almost 2 weeks ago, 5 students, including myself, were suspended from Columbia University for our refusal to participate in an arbitrary and unjust investigation into student organizing. Columbia University is attempting to set a dangerous precedent by using the Columbia 5 as a scapegoat ahead of Minouche Shafiq's congressional hearing. As a result of my suspension, I'm no longer allowed to engage in any Columbia class activities, and I'm being forcibly removed from my campus housing. Columbia would rather threaten their students with homelessness than let our voices be heard. This comes after a series of repressive attacks from American universities across the country on pro-Palestinian students, faculty, and staff organizers, namely those at Vanderbilt, Pomona, and CUNY. We need to stand up for our ability to fight against genocide and against forced displacement of marginalized people throughout the world. From Palestine to Harlem to Sudan, an attack on one of us is an attack on all of us. If they attack one of us, we will organize in millions. Let me make this clear. These are not isolated attacks. This is a part of a coordinated attack on anti-Zionist movements in the United States and our democratic rights. Our rights as students, workers, and individual citizens to free speech and independent thought are being violently oppressed by US society, at our college, universities, at our workplaces, and on the streets. That being said, the movement has not stopped, just like the genocide in Gaza has not stopped. The violent repression exposes us to the inherently unjust systems that we live in, political, economic, and social. As our numbers grow, so does our strength. Columbia administration, just like US imperialism, relies on scare tactics and repression to quell student movements. Let this be a call to action for every student, worker, and citizen. Join our movement for Palestinian liberation and to end systemic repression. We should not stand idly by as thousands of Palestinians continue to be martyred, as millions live under occupation and millions more live in exile from their homeland. We should not stand idly by as riot police are called on student protesters, as Black and brown people are violently removed from their homes, and as millions of workers in the global South are martyred by imperialist exploitation.
This Columbia professor says that not all of the faculty who are supporting their students agree with each other on the issue of Israel and Palestine, but they are all appalled at the way that the university has cracked down on its students. Listen.
As academic freedom and principles of free expression have been eroded all through the year, with new policies made on the fly to punish students with targeted punishment and so on. But what we witnessed today was simply horrendous. It was astonishing to me. I have been an activist and I was a student protester in my undergrad days at Bryn Mawr. I was doing anti-apartheid organizing, and we faced hostility and condescension. We never faced the sort of thing that the students face today, which was a group of principled, peaceful, anti-war protesters having a massive phalanx of NYPD called on to them. They were first of all suspended in order to be able to charge them with trespassing. That suspension comes with all the things that Sheldon was talking about, removing their access to their own dorm rooms, locking them out from their belongings, telling them that they no longer had access to classes, and removing their access even to campus, which obviously was the pretense under which they could then be arrested for trespassing. And those were my students out there. They were our students out there. These are among the most brilliant and principled students we've ever had. They're serious. This is not a fad. The Barnard president, I understand at some meetings with alums earlier this year, said something to the effect of that. These students just think that it's hip and more cool to be really radical and out there. That's so incredibly underestimates the seriousness of their study and understanding. And I want to say that the faculty who are supporting the students do not all agree on the issue of Israel and Palestine. We actually, in the AAUP members, for an example, are of multiple viewpoints on this. And at the same time, we are astonished and disgusted with the way the university has cracked down on the student right to protest. Our job is to prepare active, inquiring, smart, free-thinking citizens to participate in democracy. And what they're trying to do is completely shut that down.
Please take a look at this picture. This is outside Columbia the other day. And there are many, many more cops than that. And I just want to share this because it's not entirely clear to me the extent to which people outside of the Columbia community are aware or privy to the, frankly, like, militarization and state of Columbia's campus. Also, quick note on the irony that I'm wearing this sweatshirt right now. Won't be wearing it outside. Not trying to do any branding campaigns for Columbia at the present moment. And I just want to say that the university's punitive but somehow also dismissive approach to student activism in a time of, like, immense crisis has been, like, incredibly troubling and disturbing to witness. There were students hospitalized after being sprayed with a hazardous substance at a peaceful demonstration on Columbia's campus. And the response has been so incredibly inadequate, it's, like, shocking. I mean, I'm not shocked, but it ought to be shocking. And the university, in my view, has been extremely complicit in allowing developing narratives about student activists and their labeling and villainization. That's contributed to this extremely now hostile environment. I could say so much about this, but the police presence speaks for itself. Police are not synonymous with safety. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows who is at higher risk of being harmed by that type of presence. And it makes it blatantly clear who the university is concerned with protecting and who they're not.